number 8. Speaking of teams that need quarterbacks, so I had the Panthers at number 8 taking Matt Corral this week, and that's only because of the conversation we just had about the Texans deciding to roll with Davis Mills for now. Maybe they're out of the quarterback race as we sit here. We'll certainly see how that unfolds. But QB's at the top of your list, Josh, followed by offensive line, safeties in the mix as well. So let me put it to you this way. I'll start with you, Josh. If Evan Neal, Ike Kwanwu, Charles Cross, Tyler Linderbaum are already off the board, which they were in my Monday mock draft, and you're the Panthers sitting there, you're targeting a quarterback if you like one of these guys, or what are you trying to do here?
It depends on what's happened in free agency in the offseason. I think that's where this game of
by the way, Sam Darnold has to come back given his contract, so he's going to be there one way or the other.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the interesting, dynamic in this whole conversation is there's possibly going to be a game of musical chairs with some quarterbacks in the NFL this year. We don't know what's going to happen with Russell Wilson. We don't know what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. We don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. The music's going to stop at some point, and somebody's going to be left without a chair. So in this case, if that's Carolina, then you probably consider one of those quarterbacks. If Kenny Pickett's still available there, we talked about his history with Matt Rule, I believe on last week's podcast. You've got Matt Corral from Ole Miss, obviously. So there's some options at the quarterback position if you are the team left without a chair when the music stops in the offseason.
So, Traps, I'll put that same question to you, but I will add this layer of complexity. The Panthers have a terrible offensive line, and unlike the Jaguars, who we talked about earlier in terms of all the draft picks they have in the top 72, the Panthers have the 8th pick, and they don't pick again to 104. So if you're sitting at 8, all those offensive linemen are gone that I mentioned, Neal Akwanwu, Linderbaum, Cross, and you're like, okay, I can take a quarterback. You're basically going to set that person up to fail. Would you stay put? Would you draft one of these defensive guys we've been talking about? Would you maybe perhaps try to trade down for someone who wants a quarterback, like the Saints, for example, the Steelers, for example? You have a lot of options here if you're the Panthers GM.
Yeah, I would look at the quarterback position, and obviously, like Josh said, that those musical chairs with the veteran quarterbacks will certainly play a factor here because the Panthers were in on Russell Wilson, certainly in on Deshaun Watson as well. If they don't land one of those quarterbacks, then they have to pick a quarterback here almost. I mean, I think going into year 3 of the Matt Rule experiment, if they're still like grasping at straws at the quarterback position and don't really have their guy, then I think he's going to be in some hot water. It wouldn't shock me, though, if they do land one of the quarterbacks, or if, like you mentioned, if the top offensive linemen that would be kind of obvious picks for them are gone, maybe go wide receiver. I mean, I like DJ Moore. He's quietly having a good season. Robbie Anderson's a veteran. He's solid. But if you look around the league, and I think that really for the Panthers, they can look inside their own division. These are teams that have not just 2 quality wide receivers, but 3 really good receivers. And I think Robbie Anderson can be solid. We've seen him flash a little bit. I know earlier in the season for a lot of fantasy owners, he was pretty disappointing. To be that maybe this is the first receiver off the board, or even if it's the second receiver off the board for your Sam Darnold, or maybe you have to sign a lesser veteran quarterback, not a Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers.
Excuse me, lesser than Sam Darnold?
Lesser than that's pretty low bar already.
I'm like Matt Rule fired.
I'm very anti Sam Darnold, by the way. I mean lesser than Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers or anyone else on there.
Like a Baker Mayfield.
Yes, like a Baker Mayfield. Get him a wide receiver to kind of follow the trend of today's NFL, where it's not just about having 2 good receivers, but you need to have 3.
Yeah, maybe in free agency, and I haven't looked at the free agency numbers, what they might the salary cap numbers, and it's going to go up to think about $208 million in the offseason. If you don't have the draft picks, I'm just going to be saying that I got to get put on a t-shirt. You have to fix the offensive line, so you can have all the wide receivers you want. Because I go back to the 2008 season for the Steelers, which incidentally they somehow won the Super Bowl, but their offensive line was among the worst in human history. And Tomlin said, and I remember this like it was yesterday, he said sometimes you can beat defenses with offensive line, and sometimes you can beat them with skill position players. And, he thought they had skill position players, but Roethlisberger took something like 300 sacks that year. And I don't think if you're a quarterback, if you were given the choice, you would much rather be protected than having, guys running open down the field while you're picking yourself up off the turf.
I will say one
yeah, go ahead, Josh.
narrative that is kind of developed as we've gone through this podcast. It seems like everybody might be interested in trading back, which might say something about the talent pool that's available this year. I think back to when the Cavaliers had the number 1 overall pick 1 year in the NBA draft, and you had Anthony Bennett staring at you in the face as the top prospect. I won't go that far. I won't say it's that kind of a draft class, but I'm curious, like from a larger view, how does this draft class in terms of the elite talent kind of stack up to previous years to you guys?
I was thinking, so what was the Eric Fisher draft? Was that 2013?
2013 was really bad.
Because Eric Fisher,
I don't think it's that bad.
I don't think it's that bad either. The 2013 draft was tough. I think that's Eric Fisher, right?
That's the Luke Jokel number 2, Deion Jordan number 3.
Oh boy, Jarvis Jones went to the
are...
Steelers, and he was a mid-round pick, and that didn't work out. And he was, Georgia, he was crushing it. He had led the country in sacks, I believe. 2013
it feels
was
like
also...
2015 to me. 2015. Jameis and Marcus Mariota went 1-2. There was still like Dante Fowler went 3. Amari Cooper was pretty good. He's at 4. Brandon Scherf at 5. Leonard Williams. But then there's Kevin White, Eric Flowers inside the top 10. Like a couple of quarterbacks that excite people, not like 5 or 6. Some good players, but really as you get outside of the top 10, the elite talent kind of falls off a cliff.
And I think that just reiterates it, just how difficult it is to sort of sort this out. I mean, Brashad Perriman went in the first round, and he made a huge play for the Buccaneers on Sunday, but he's been with a handful of teams already. Never really has come close to being a number 1. He certainly didn't solve the issues in Baltimore they were hoping he did. Yeah, this is interesting. I don't think it's as bad as 2013. 2015 might be a pretty close call. I think the quarterback situation was a lot clearer, or at least it felt like in 2015. Because we knew Jameis was good. He just had the stuff at Florida State that got him in trouble. Marcus Mariota, the knock on him was that he was too nice. Or, sometimes we hear those sort of comments. And he hasn't lived up to expectations, whether it's injury or otherwise. But after that, do you guys know, without looking, if you have looked, just so you didn't, who was the third quarterback drafted in that class?
Oh, my God. I'm mad at myself if I don't know this. I know the Colorado State quarterback went, what's his name, to the Saints.
You got it.
He was what's his name? I can see him throwing the football.
Double G.
Oh, Garrett Grayson.
There you go.
Yes.
He's
Second round? Third round?
Third round. He's no longer in the league.
Round. Wow.
Sean Mannion somehow still in the league. He was the next quarterback taken. And Trevor Siemian, pick 250th. Still in the league. Made a start 2 weeks ago. So, again, wow. you have no idea. Crazy town.
So, I mean, I think just one last point on this trading up, trading down. If maybe this is opening the door for a savvy team to be able to trade up inside the top 5 or top 10 and not have to give up a king's ransom like you normally would if you're trading up, for a top end quarterback or a super hyped edge rusher. So maybe we'll see a few more trades inside the top 10 because the cost is just not going to be able to be nearly as much as it normally is.
And it feels like, assuming the draft board stays as it is for the next 6 months or however long it is till the draft, right around pick 7, like 8 Panthers, 9 Falcons, that's when two teams that need quarterbacks might be sniffing around. And that's where teams like the Saints, the Steelers, the Broncos, football team who pick after 13th and down might be thinking about moving up for one of these quarterbacks if they think that it might be worth it, whether it's Carson Strong, who I didn't have going in the first round this week for the first time ever, I think. Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, whomever.